Hi Crossroads family. I decided to do a little craft today to follow up with Pastor Chuck's message about making face masks. So I will show you guys what I've been working on. I've been doing loads of face masks. So this is what the finished product will look like. Okay. See? And you can get really creative and fun with these. The only downside to these is that when you're wearing them, people can't see that you're smiling. So, but keep smiling because it's going to make you feel better. Okay, so what kind of materials are you guys going to need for this? So you're going to need fabric. Fabric that I recommend is something where you really don't see what direction it's going, especially when you're just starting out with sewing, because it can get kind of wonky. So stripes you're really not going to want to do, maybe checkers you're really not going to want to do, something that you can't see if it gets all mixed up. So then you're going to need elastic, 1/4 inch elastic, which is like gold right now. It's so hard to find this, but I'm kind of thinking of different ways. If you can't find 1/4 inch, you can do something like a 1/2 inch elastic, but you're going to want to cut it down the middle. So you want something that you can cut down the middle without it fraying everywhere, but you really don't want any more than a 1/4 inch because you're going to put it behind your ear, and anything more than a 1/4 inch is going to pull your ear forward, and it makes it very uncomfy, especially if you're sewing this for like the grocery store workers or people in like takeout restaurants, just people in our general stores. They're wearing them all day, so our first responders, of course. 1/4 inch is probably best. Another thing I think I'm gonna try using. So if I run out of elastic, I might do kind of like a follow-up tutorial with with like alternatives. So this is like rubber band elastic actually. So even you could take like a hair tie, cut it in half, maybe use that as the piece that goes around the ear. Another thing I'm thinking of using is string or rope, very thin rope. So I found this in the garage. I think this is like to tie up like a roast or some kind of meat. So I don't know. That's my grandparents. So I'm gonna try that next, so we'll see. But I have a little bit of elastic left, but I'm like working on my 100th mask now. So okay, so that's the materials. Now you're gonna need scissors, obviously. You're gonna want measuring tape. The fabric you don't really need too much because it's only gonna be 2 9 by 7 inch squares. So that's why you'll need your measuring tape to measure that out. The elastic is gonna be 6 inch pieces, and then you'll need your push pins. What else? A sewing machine. So if you guys really like this tutorial and you don't have a sewing machine, what I will do is I've seen a couple things online now about non-sew face masks. So I can look those up and do a tutorial on those if you guys don't have a sewing machine. But I think more people can surprise themselves with the sewing machine, even those old school ones. So next thing you need is thread. You want the thread to kind of match the base color of the fabric, so I'm kind of using like, it's not exactly the base, but this dark blue right here, I'm using a thread that color. Alright, and I think that's it. Oh, of course you're gonna need a beverage. I'm eating cookies now that it's not the 40-day fast. I'm so excited. My aunt made me cookies and she sent them to me. And then music, and just you want to be relaxed because sewing, you need a lot of patience with it. Okay, so let's get started. So what I did beforehand is I went ahead and cut out my squares already. So I'll put that there, but you're gonna want 2 9 by 7 inch squares. So we got 2 of those, and then I have my 6 inch elastic. So you're gonna want to cut all that out first. The 6 inch, if you're sewing for someone who has like a larger head, like I sewed one for my grandpa and I needed a little bit more than 6 inches because he has a big noggin. So just maybe add like a 1/2 inch, maybe a full inch if you think that's necessary. So just kind of measure it. I found that 6 inches with a 9 inch mask, it fits really snug and good for like a standard size. Okay, so what you're gonna want to do is start by pinning the two pieces of elastic to the 7 inch side. So you have your 9 inch top and the 7 inch side. So you're gonna want to pin the elastic one side a 1/2 inch down from the top and a 1/2 inch up from the bottom. So each corner is gonna have an elastic a 1/2 inch from the corner. Okay, so let's see. So while I pin this, I just want to share, I'm actually really happy Pastor Chuck talked about this today, because I had been sewing masks for the last couple weeks and I was honestly getting a little discouraged, and for no reason. It's fun. I do enjoy sewing. I love sewing, but for whatever reason I was just losing joy in the face masks, and I really didn't understand why, because a lot of people need them. But today when he shared that it's actually considered a spiritual gift in the Old Testament, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to start sewing, use my spiritual gift to help. I was really happy he shared that. Really touched me. So here we are. I'm doing this tutorial with you guys. Actually, this is what I wanted to do even before Cookie Club, but my heart wasn't in it. I don't know why. So, but the joy has arisen. I love doing this. Okay, so as you see, I have my my elastic pinned to each 7-inch side. Now we're gonna get ready to sew it together. So you're gonna want to take the other 9-inch piece and you're gonna line it up. So you'll see how it's kind of wonky, right, at the bottom. So you're gonna want to pin it as much as possible, especially if you're a beginner. I don't really like to pin certain things anymore because I find that they get in the way for me. But I've been sewing forever. I remember sewing Halloween costumes with my mom as a kid. So so I would recommend pinning, especially the 9-inch sides. When you come down to the 7-inch side, when you're sewing along the 7-inch side, you're gonna want to get to halfway and then pull that elastic to match up the second half of the corner, because it kind of gets wonky. So you kind of have to mess with it a little bit. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna sew all along the outside here, and you're gonna leave a 1 to 2 inch opening so that we can turn the fabric right side out. So that's why you want to put it right sides together, because then it's going to be inside out and we're going to turn it right side out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start sewing, and I'll show you guys the finish. Well, it's not finished, but what it looks like in a minute. Shouldn't take me too long. Okay, so I start right at one of the edge of the 1-inch, the 1 to 2 inch opening. So it's like you have your opening, and then you're gonna sew this way all along here, and then come up and stop right before that opening begins. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. And always when you first stitch, you always want to lock that stitch back in place. When you come to a corner, you make sure your needle is down, you lift the foot up, turn it so you have a 90-degree corner there. And then when you come down the 7-inch side, you're going to want to go over the elastic. You're going to want to back stitch over the elastic. Excuse me. So that way it really like holds it in place, especially if people are going to be wearing these all day. You want it to be really secure. So I came over the elastic, now I'm going to back stitch again and keep going down. So I'm about halfway down. Now I'm going to stop for a minute and reach up and pull that elastic down so I can match up my other corners. That's a little bit of a tricky part, so if you guys are struggling with that, just let me know. Okay, second piece of elastic, lock it in place, last corner there. Okay, coming down that second 9-inch side. So this is probably going to be the top, or probably the top, maybe the bottom. Okay, second 7-inch side. Put back down. Okay, halfway down, so I'm going to pull that back, pull that elastic down to match up my corners again. Continue through here. Alright, coming up to my last side here. Remember, you're going to leave that opening. Don't sew all the way through or you'll have to redo some work. Which in sewing, you always have to redo work. I think that's why it's called a spiritual gift, because it takes a lot of patience to sew. Especially when it's your first time doing a new project. You're going to do it a couple times before you get it right. Okay. There's that. So remember we have pins in there. So now we need to go in and get those pins out. You want to be careful that you don't poke yourself, which I've done plenty of times. Kind of get used to it after a while. One more there. Okay, so now we have our square all together, our elastics on the inside. Now that little opening that we left, we're gonna push the fabric through and start turning it right side out, kind of like an old sock or something that you need to get right side out. Put the seams back inside. Okay, so you'll see I'm getting there. You kind of want to just grab onto the elastic and you can pull it. Where's that? Okay, so you see we kind of have the beginnings of a mask here. Okay, so now this is where, oh, I don't know if I said this, but you're gonna want a sewing or a knitting needle to kind of push out these corners. You can also use like a pencil or a drumstick, just something that's kind of, or pin, something that's gonna kind of help you push out these corners. So in that opening, you're gonna stick the sewing or the poker in there and then just poke out those corners, okay? All right, now after this, if you really want to be super professional, what you do is you would iron it, press it really flat, so that keeps all the edges really nice and together. But because of time here, we're just gonna skip that part. So this is actually the hardest part that we're coming up to here. But you kind of have to find what works for you. We're gonna create 3 little pleats. So we're gonna create these 3 little, see these little pleats in there? So you kind of gotta find what works for you. What works for me is so you wanna start maybe about 1 inch from the bottom, and then I just take the fabric and I pinch it, and then I fold that pinch up. So you have kind of like a little pleat there. Okay, so I'll pin that, and what you're gonna do that 3 times, and I'll show you guys again. And you want that top of the pleat to probably be about 1 inch, maybe a little bit more than 1 inch from the bottom. But you don't have to get super precise here. With these masks, they kind of spread over the face, so it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not like a quilt. Even though quilt sometimes it doesn't have to be perfect either. Okay, so you're gonna do that 3 times. So we have let me see if I can show you better. We're gonna pinch that fabric, see how I have it pinched in between my thumb and my index finger, and then fold that pinch up, and then pin it on both sides in place. Okay. Ah, poke myself. So I'll tell you guys a little thing about me. I don't know, maybe some of you know, but one of the reasons I really love a good cup of tea is I lived in England for a couple years. I studied there for about 2.5 years-ish, I think. All is a blur now, but so I love a good cup of tea. I actually have my friends send me tea from England. Okay, so last one here. We're gonna pinch it, right? Have our little pinch and then fold up. There's nothing like a good cup of tea, good music, and sewing on a cloudy day like today. That is literally heaven for me. I mean, as close to heaven as it gets. A, on earth, and B, in quarantine. I'd much rather be on the beach. So, okay. So after you have your 3 pins, you're gonna pin them all along the outside, right? And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew a big square again around it, okay? And remember that little opening? That's where this is gonna get closed up. So you wanna make sure that you get that closed there. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and sew around those edges. And I think about 1/4 inch. On your sewing machine, you'll see they have little measurements. You're gonna wanna do 1/4 inch from the edge. Okay. Make sure it's good here. Okay, Remember to backstitch. And you don't want to use too thick of a fabric, just like your normal quilter's cotton is good, because when you start to sew over those pleats, it can kind of get a little thick and it can mess up the needle, create an error on the sewing machine. So just a good project's all about the fabric choice. So pick a good, easy cotton for yourself. Okay, corner, turn, press. All right, almost there. Okay, just about done here. All right, so you want to trim those little bits of string that you have at the end, so that way you don't have little loose strings. Okay, and you want to take out those pins, remember, because that's not a nice surprise for whoever gets the mask, have a pin in the cheek. So take out those 3 pins on the pleats that you made. Right? Turn my machine off here. Okay, and there you have it. So here's the mask. Let's try it out. Right? Looks good. Okay. So again, if you guys don't have a sewing machine, I'll try to find, let me know, and I'll try to find a easy craft for us to do. I'll post the pattern that I used. You don't need any, it's actually just 2 squares that you really have to cut out, so you don't really need a pattern. But I hope you guys liked it, and if I know Crossroads is doing a donation, so I think it's on How to Help or something like that on the Crossroads website. So if you guys make these, you can start donating them, and I think that's what I'm going to start doing again. I'm going to get back in it. So all right, thank you guys. I'll see you next time.